Ladies, that song was on time. Thank you. Now before I start, I want to say something real quick. I'm a person, I can speak one-on-one. I can talk to folks at a small group. Public speaking has been my biggest challenge. Today is my first here.
Amen.
I'd like to get a message. Am I coming okay? As I speak?
No.
I need to speak up?
Yes.
Another challenge. As I deliver the message, pray for me. To be or not to be? What? Young people? To be or not to be? What?
That is the question. That is the
To be or not to be a Christian for Jesus?
All right.
That is the question.
Incorporate it now.
Church, you turn with me to Acts 6:5. If someone would read that for me, Acts 6:5. When you have it, stand it.
And the saying pleased the whole multitude. And they chose Stephen, a man full of faith and of the Holy Ghost, and Philip, and Prochorus, and Nicanor, and Timon, and Parmenas, and Nicholas, the proselyte of Antioch.
Thank you. We're talking about Stephen. Stephen was a great man of faith, full of spirit, and he did great wonders. He performed many miracles. He even included, and this I'm talking with the church now, not only did he minister, but it was practical, very practical. He did administrative duties, which was part of the church business. That's Stevens. I'm going to be talking about the disciples. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to be talking about the disciples. Next disciple is going to be Timothy. If someone would turn to 2 Timothy 3:15. 2 Timothy 3:15. As they look up these texts, Timothy's father was Greek, his mother was Jewish. This helped him to relate to both the Jews and the Gentiles of his time. Not only helped them to relate, but also to bridge a gap, not only in the area, but also within the church. Paul said, Timothy, go ahead, sister, go ahead and read.
the second.
Yes, 2 Timothy 3:15.
And that from a child thou hast known the Holy Scriptures, which are able to make thee wise unto salvation through faith which is in Christ Jesus.
This is what Paul said of Timothy. He was bridging the gap. One of the things, when I read that, because Timothy was the youngest disciple, and we have young people here, these precious ones. We have these, they're not all here, but normally have these pews full. We, as the adults, as the seniors, we need to keep them encouraged.
Amen.
Okay? We have got to bridge that gap. We can only bridge that gap with the help of Christ and with their help. We need these young people. We as parents and grandparents, church family, the things that we say and how we say it, our tone, can either keep them in here or shake them out. We need these young people. Paul took Timothy under his wing. And we need to keep these young people under our wing.
Amen.
Moving on to Matthew. Matthew was a character. Matthew, we know he was a tax collector. If someone would read Matthew, find Matthew's 9:9, Matthew 9:9. Matthew was despised by his own people. Go ahead, brother.
And Jesus passed forth from thence. He saw a man named Matthew sitting at the receipt of custom. And he saith unto him, Follow me. And he arose and followed him.
Amen.
Amen.
Like I said, Matthew was despised because he was a tax collector. Money, 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 money. He's working for the Romans, or he's working under the Romans. Every time you turn around, there's a tax. You get upset, even today. But Matthew realized in his life that there was something missing.
Amen.
Matthew wanted to have peace with God, peace with his conscience, peace with others, because he knew he was robbing some of these folks with these high taxes. And he wanted to have a purpose, a worthy purpose to live for. When he heard Jesus speaking, when he met him, he knew this is what he wanted. When he invited Christ to come into his home, and I'll just say, some call it a feast, but I'm going to break it down to today's terms, had a potluck, big potluck at his house.
Amen.
But he invited Christ to come to his home. Not only did he invite Christ to come to his home, he invited his neighbors, his co-workers, which were tax collectors, to hear Christ speak.
Amen.
This is what we need to continue to do as a church. If we're to grow, if we're to be successful, this is what Christ is asking us to do. Sometimes we have potlucks here, sometimes we have potlucks at each other's homes. We need to continue that, because this is another way of bridging the gap. Because sometimes, and I've seen this in the past, some folks won't come to church, but they'll come to your place of business and talk, or they'll come to your home or your apartment to talk to you. And they open up. Because believe it or not, they're watching us. And I can't begin to tell you how many times people have told me, you're strange, you're different, you're hard, are you a Christian? And all that good stuff. Maybe some of you've heard that. But they're watching.
Amen.
I promise not to keep you long. Let's turn to next disciple is going to be Thomas. If someone will turn and read John 20, 25 through 29. John 20, 25 through 29. This is Thomas we're going to be talking about.
The other disciples therefore said unto him, We have seen the Lord. But he saith unto them, Except I shall see in his hands the print of the nails, and put my finger into the print of the nails, and thrust my hand into his side, I will not believe. And after 8 days again, his disciples were within, and Thomas with them. Then came Jesus, the doors being shut, and stood in the midst, and said, Peace be unto you. Then saith he to Thomas, Reach hither thy finger, and behold my hands, and reach hither thy hand, and thrust it into my side, and be not faithless, but believing. And Thomas answered and said unto him, My Lord and my God. Jesus saith unto him, Thomas, Because thou hast seen me, thou hast believed. Blessed are they that have not seen, and yet have believed. Amen.
Church, are we like that sometimes? Yep. Are we like that sometimes? I know I have. And I stop to think, we call him Doubting Thomas. All this time that he walked with Christ, and he's still doubting. If we have doubters here, You need to stop. It stops today. Okay? You can't leave this church doubting anymore. He loved us. He still loves us. He died for us. He gave us all for us. The doubting has got to stop. Jesus didn't condemn Thomas for his doubt, neither did he commend him for it. When troubled by doubt, we do not help resolve those doubts by retreating into isolation.
That's right.
I'm going to read that again.
Yeah.
When troubled by doubt, we do not help resolve those doubts by retreating into isolation and cutting off ourselves from other people of faith. We're here to help each other.
That's right.
Amen.
One of the things I didn't say earlier with Timothy, young people, when I came into the church, you hear a lot of things. One of the things that has echoed through my life, we were always told, you're the church of tomorrow, you're the church of tomorrow. I've heard that for years. Young people, you're the church of today. Precious ones, you're the church of today. Moving on to Philip. Philip had a unique experience, like several other disciples. Philip was there for the feeding of the 5,000. Now just picture the little boy, his loaves of bread and fish, and what Christ did with that. He fed them, but he also talked to them. He prayed with them, the 5,000. That would be, I'm trying to imagine myself on the Mediterranean Sea or some sea, and I'm seeing Christ do this, feeding all those people. That had to be a wonderful experience. As Philip had a closer walk with Christ, he began also talking more and more to others about Christ. Philip had a very fruitful ministry in Asia Minor. Moving on to James and John. James and John, we know them as the sons of thunder. We also know, and this is the nickname that Christ gave them, sons of thunder. But we also know that they had terrible tempers. They did a good work, but they had tempers. I read something and I had to jot this down. The only letter that separates anger from danger. I'm sorry, there's only but one letter that separates anger from danger. Both of John and James, they were overly ambitious. Now can you imagine walking with Christ, this time that they spent with him, but that they're saying to themselves at the Last Supper, one needs to be at the right-hand side of you, the other needs to be on the left-hand side of you in glory. Church, we shouldn't be about that. I heard a sermon many years ago when somebody said, I'd be grateful just to be the doorkeeper. Okay? We all have responsibilities, or should have responsibilities. In the church, when we're asked to do something, if you can do it, let's do it. If you can't, they have somebody there that's going to train you. Okay?
Amen.
Okay. Moving on to Paul. 2 Corinthians. Someone read 2 Corinthians 5:17. 2 Corinthians 5:17. 2 Corinthians.
Therefore, if any man be in Christ, he is a new creature. All things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new.
When I think of Paul, one of the things that stands out most in my life, in my mind, is that road to Damascus. Has anybody here had that kind of experience? I have, on a few rare occasions. And there are times when Christ just has to sometimes knock you down. Sometimes he needs to shake you up. Sometimes he just needs to spin you around.
That's right.
There are times, like my grandparents used to tell me, sit down. I had to sit down because he's talking to us. He has something important to say. And it's not just for our benefit, it's for the benefit of others. Okay. Judas. I'm not going to stay long on Judas, but every now and then Judas gets me a little upset. But I need for somebody, before I say that, John's making a statement, and if somebody can find John 12:6, John 12:6. John made a statement about Judas. Luke made a statement about Judas, which is Luke 22:3. Somebody can find Luke 22:3. And then Jesus made a statement about Judas, Matthew 26:24. Matthew 26. Once again, John said, John 12:6. Luke said something about Judas. That's Luke 22:3. And Jesus made a statement about Judas, Matthew 26:4. Someone read those for me.
John 12:6. This he said, not that he cared for the poor, but because he was a thief, and had the bag, and bear what was put therein.
That's sad. Somebody call you an outright thief.
Stop it.
Okay, Luke. I'm sorry, Luke 22:3.
Then entered Satan into Judas, surnamed Iscariot, being of the number of the 12.
That's sad. Once again, last Jesus, what Jesus said about Judas. Matthew 26:24. Someone will read that?
The Son of Man goeth as it is written of him. But woe unto that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed, and had been rooted for that man if he had not been born.
Now, that's why I don't want to stay too long on Judas. But can you imagine Christ saying that to you? I mean, when I read that, I had to do a double take. But that's sad. That's sad. Barnabas, known as the son of encouragement, he was a landowner. And when he heard about Christ, and he saw Christ, saw what Christ was doing, he went and sold everything he had to become a disciple. I know you folks are saying, you mentioned that you have some challenges because you're out of work. Stay encouraged.
Amen.
Christ is going to use you. He knows what you're going through. He knew it before you knew it.
Yep.
But he's going to see you through it.
Yes, it is.
I know it, I believe it. And I'm sure there are folks here that can have experienced that.
Amen.
If someone read Acts 4:36 to 37. Acts 4:36 to 37. This is talking about Barnabas. Acts 4:36, 37.
And Joseph, who by the apostles were surnamed Barnabas, which is, being interpreted, the son of consolation, a Levite and of the country of Cyprus, having land, sold it, and brought the money and laid it at the apostles' feet.
We also know that Barnabas paved the way for Paul.
Right.
Once again, that's encouragement. That's another way of looking after each other, okay? It's not about me, I. It's working together as a unit, as a church. Then we have John Mark. 2 Timothy 2 Timothy 4:11. Someone read that?
Take Mark and read for he is profitable to me for the ministry.
Okay. Many people were, especially the disciples, were upset with John Mark because there were times when, let's say he had a change of venue, a change of mind, when he was expected to be somewhere, he wasn't there, he turned around. Let's say, I don't want to use the word cut out. When he was supposed to go to Asia Minor, he didn't go all the way. And I look at it, and I look at myself. Have I been like that with my walk with Christ?
Mercy, mercy. Help us, Lord.
Have I put my job before the church? Have I let my bills come to church, just go a different way? You know, the church is fine, the church is going to stand, the church is together. And I have to ask myself on a daily basis, am I doing my part? And there have been times I've had to say no. Church, we need to do our part. We should not allow anything stand in the way of our relationship with Jesus Christ.
Amen. Amen.
This is the church. He's holding each and every one of us responsible. Okay? He loves us, he needs us. I want to talk about Simon Peter briefly. He spoke words of wisdom, but Peter had some challenges. And when I thought about Peter, the first time I heard about Peter cutting off the serpent's ear, I'm saying to myself, now that brother, now here he's walking with Christ. He's with Christ day and night. He's reading the Word. He's staying sharp. But also his brother's sharpening his sword. Now, to cut a serpent's ear off, I mean, that had to be a sharp sword. He didn't have no dull sword doing that. But I'm reminded that we, individually and as a church, we have got to stay sharp in the Word. Because we're going to be tested, but we're not going to be cutting anybody up.
That's right.
Okay? We speak from our hearts. We speak from the Word. We speak from experience. But we speak in love.
Amen.
Jesus persevered with Peter. So God bears with us, forgiving, restoring, admonishing, inspiring, all to keep us to follow in Christ. In spite of Peter's challenges, Peter still followed the Lord. In spite of his failures. I'm going to share with you a true story. It's somewhat of an emotional one, but it's a true one. Many of you know that I'm a trucker. And I had a trip to make to an area outside of Akron, Ohio. And this was January 11th, 2017. When I left home, I was happy, I was relaxed, I got a good truck, got a good load, on my way. I go to Interstate 70, instead of going all the way into Columbus, Ohio, because the load was up, had to be living in the Akron area, I jumped off the 70 and took Highway 42, which is known as Plain City. Now, I've been up and down Plain City, Highway 42 that goes into, merges into Highway 36, which is Delaware, Ohio. I've been up and down this road over 30 some odd years. In fact, my oldest son here, Jason had to be about 2 or 3 years old when I was making those runs up into the Cleveland area, upstate New York, and the times that I went into Canada. I take 42 to 36 to Interstate 71 up into 90. But as I'm driving along, it's a little chilly outside, but that's fine, I can deal with that. I get off Interstate 70, I'm on 42. Just as I'm getting outside of Plain City, I notice the temperature drops. It drops. I'm coming around the curve, the speed limit is 55. I'm running about 50, 55. It's early morning. As I'm coming around the curve, everything is still fine. I'm on a straightaway. And Highway 42 is, the width is like, I would say 79th Street, 106th Street, Kessler. So imagine a semi going northbound in one lane. When I hit some black ice, I'm going north, I hit some black ice, and the tractor starts to what we call jackknife. I see this happening. I didn't panic, but I was upset. I started turning as the tractor was coming this way, turning to the right. I was turning my wheels to the left. I didn't want to overcorrect. And I got it straight. Just I got this tractor straight, and I'm still in my lane, all of a sudden there was a gust of wind out of nowhere. Blew the trailer like this. Now, in the back here, back of the trailer, on the bottom lights are called your marker lights, the lights on the top of the trailer alongside, those are called your clearance lights. But as that trailer was coming around, I looked in my mirror, I didn't see my marker lights. And it's like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden I just felt a pull. And it's like, this is not happening to me, this is not happening to me. I found myself, imagine a semi going on a 2-lane road that's north and south. I'm going sideways. I'm screaming, I'm praying to the Lord, and I'm yelling out, Lord, help me, help me, help me. Because in my driving experience, even today, I still see vehicles driving down a 2-lane, a 4-lane, even an interstate. They don't have their headlights on. And I knew that I was possibly going to be, somebody was going to hit me because I'm still going sideways. I put it in a lower gear real quick, put my hands on the wheel, and I said, being that I figured I knew the area because I've been up and down it over 30 years, but it's 3 o'clock in the morning now. I said to myself, okay, what I'm going to do, I'll just go into the field. Then I'll probably take out some ground, some grass or something, or some crops. But I figured I'd rather be doing that than paying for a funeral. So as I started to go down into, still going sideways, as I went down into that little ravine, something hit my steer tire. I didn't know what it was at the time, but I found out later it was a junction box. It hit my steer tires. When it hit my steer tires, the tractor started to do like that. My steering wheel came around real fast. Both my hands were firmly on the wheel, but the steering wheel came around so fast that I thought I almost broke my wrist. By the time, and I'm still traveling now, part of the trail's out, still out on the road, the tractor's now into that soft ground. Then I hit a utility pole on the tractor side. When I hit the utility pole, I hit my head on the side of the door, couldn't imagine what that was. And when I looked out my mirror, I saw a portion of the utility pole hanging. And it's like, I didn't do that. I did not do that. I did not do that. It's there hanging. So by the time I hit the pole, now the tractor turns that much more. I'm going further down into it like a ditch. And I hit another pole, but that pole hit the nose of the trailer. We call the front of the trailer or the nose of the trailer. It hit the trailer, and it stopped the tractor. It stopped the unit. I was trying to turn the engine off while the truck was still sliding, but I couldn't do it. Once I got stopped, I went ahead and turned the engine off. I still kept my lights on because I figured if there was northbound traffic coming, I didn't want them to rear end the trailer. Just as all this is happening, I feel the truck like sliding just a little bit. So now I'm praying more. I'm upset even more. There's a barn. This light reminds me of this barn that I saw in the distance. I saw this light, and I closed my eyes, and I was praying, Father God, help me, help me, help me. Because I'm still thinking the tractor's going to come either north or south on 42 and hit the center. Well, that didn't happen. Somebody told me a long time ago that when your light flashes before you, or you see ones that you love flash across your mind, because we have little ones here, I just say that consider your time is up, okay? And right about that time, I saw my Nana. And I'm from New York, and where Nana lived was a better place to live. But I remember as a child, 7, 8 years old, up until my late teens, it was always a joy to go to Nana's house. Always. And I saw Nana, and we were in the kitchen. Now this is what I was seeing in my mind, what was flashing across my mind. And when I saw Nana, we were in the kitchen, and I was doing something, I was kneading dough. And she always allowed me to play her religious music or her classical music. One day, in seeing this picture of me being 12 years old, I saw Nana crying. She ran out of the kitchen, she went and she sat down in the living room, and I said, Nana, why are you crying? And she said, she took off her glasses, and she took her apron, she wiped her face, and she said, Johnny, the Lord loves me. And then she said, Johnny, the Lord loves you too. And she said, I want you to make me a promise. And she held my hands. She said, make me a promise. And she said, I want you every day to give God thanks. Thank Jesus for something every day. And I heard what she said, but it's like, as a child, I'm saying, every day? And I remember that. And she said, every day. She said, Johnny, do you know how many times your heart beats a day? I said, no. She said, do you breathe every day? I said, yes. She said, so then you praise God every day. As soon as that faded, that picture faded, rain started coming down. I mean, it was coming down hard. And I did have my radio on, listening to the news and weather, and it said nothing about rain. This rain was coming down so hard that I just felt the truck just moving further and further down the ditch. Then the wind came, and it's like, this is not happening to me. The wind is pushing, and now the trail is tilting, and it's like, this trail is going to fall over. Now, mind you, when I hit that utility pole, I saw 2 utility wires laying across the trailer, and there was one across the tractor. So in my mind, I know that, okay, this show is really over, because all these wires have to do is touch any part of that frame on the tractor trailer, and it's over. I'm crying even more now. Undershirt is soaked, shirt is soaked. I'm saying, Lord, help me, help me, help me. Then I said something I'll never forget. And I said to the Lord, now I didn't make any long prayers, and then I didn't make any promises to the Lord. I didn't do that. Sometimes I have a tendency to do that, but I didn't do that. And I said to the Lord, you know my heart. You know me. Thy will be done. And then I said, Lord, make it quick. And when I said make it quick, that was, hope you can see that. When I said make it quick, I thought about something I had seen several years earlier. I'm not sure if many of you remember this, but at the time I was an EMT, and there was a truck fire. There was a paint truck that caught on fire, and it happened on 465 here in Indianapolis. And like I said, I was an EMT. We were at Wishart Hospital. We had just delivered or transported a patient there. And on iHearn, we heard this message about an explosion on the interstate, and that several patients were coming our way. We were asked to clear the ambulance to the one side so the other ambulance would come in. Now, I don't know if anybody remembers this, but I had to go to the library because I want to be factual on this. I don't know if you can remember this, but anyhow, it was July 29, 2003. And when the two ambulances rolled in, I saw the EMTs and the paramedics. They either had masks on or they were covering their faces, and they were crying. And I remember when I saw that, it was something that I would never forget. I saw, not only was their clothes still smoking, their body was smoking. I've seen burn patients before in the hospitals and therapy, but I've never seen them being wheeled in and it was basically still smoking, burning the flesh. I've never experienced that before. And it's like, I don't want to go like this. And then I thought to myself, John, that is so shallow. That is so shallow. Think what Christ did for you.
Right.
I have here, this is the closest I could get to a spike. These are railroad ties.
Right. That's it.
And as I thought about our Christ, this is what I thought about. I want you, church, to come with me. I want you to see what I saw. Saw Christ on the cross. Roman soldiers hammering these spikes in his hands, in his feet. They lift him up on the cross. They drop it in the ground. Louder than that, his flesh is tearing. Spikes in his hands for you and I. Macho man, the Roman soldier, rides up on a horse, puts a spear in his side. He's got a crown of thorns on him. As I'm looking up at Christ, and I want you to see him too. You're looking up at Christ. Even though he's not saying anything, his eyes are saying, and he's speaking to me, John, I love you. He's speaking to each and every one of us. But now through history, I love you. I love you. I love you. Shortly after that, I asked the Lord to forgive me for my weakness. Because here Christ was on the cross for a few hours. And I was worried about whether the truck was going to blow up and I was going to burn for a little bit. Shortly after I said, Lord, forgive me for being so shallow, that rain stopped just like that. I couldn't believe it. Then the wind stopped. The truck never turned over. An hour later, a trooper shows up. He's way out in the field with his flashlight, and he says, "Driver, are you okay?" I said, "I'm fine." He said, "We're going to get somebody out here. We need to, don't move. You got power lines on you. They're going to ignite the truck. Please, just stay where you are." I told him I would. There was no else place to go. He said he was going to call for EMT. They came about an hour later. When they came, they basically told me the same thing: don't move. There's power lines on your truck. They want to know if I had feeling in my feet and my hands. If I had any broken bones. I said, "No broken bones. I have feeling." And one of the questions, the last question they asked me, the driver, "Where are you hurt?" And I remember yelling out to them, "Just my feelings." And I heard the paramedic say, "That man's in shock. Stay with him." I didn't feel I was in shock, but that's what he said. The young lady stayed there. I saw a young man run back to the ambulance. And then I heard something that has stayed with me too. The young lady, EMT or paramedic, she said, "Sir, we're here for you. We're not going to leave."
Amen.
This is what Christ is saying to us.
Yes.
When he says, he's talking about the Father, the Son, and the Holy
Yes.
Ghost. He knows what all of us are going through. In the past, what we're dealing with now in the present, and what's going to happen in the future.
Yes, he does.
But he's saying, we are here for you.
Yeah.
I'll never forget her words, we will not leave you. But the Holy Spirit is saying, we will not leave you. When the power shut off, here comes the wreckers, two of them. The wrecker driver, he comes over with, I was told by the trooper in the car that that was his sergeant. When he comes, first thing the wrecker driver says, "Well, we can't find the body." And I'm like, what is he talking about? The troopers, he's looking at the wrecker driver. The wrecker driver says, "We can't find the body. We looked in the tractor, we got people looking in the field, we looked on the road, we can't find the body." The trooper in the car says, "He's right here." The trooper and the sergeant was looking at me also. And the wrecker driver said, "Look, driver, look, I got bad news and good news." I said, "Give it to me." He said, "Bad news is, the good news is, we'll have you out of here now about 5 or 6 in the morning, 7. He said, "We'll have you out by noon or 1 o'clock in the afternoon." Because they had to take 2 wreckers and pull the tractor and the trailer at the same time because I was so dug into the earth. He gets up and I said, "Well, okay, so what's the bad news?" He said, "The bad news is you don't have a truck." I said, "What?" He said, "There's nothing to salvage. There's very little you can salvage from the tractor." I said, "Okay, thank you." He takes off. Here comes the trooper's there. He's looking at me, the sergeant. He's looking down at me, looking into the car, and he's looking at me for the longest time. Then he looks up at the wreck. He looks back down in the car, and he looks at me the second time. Now, by this time, my jaws are getting tight because I'm still upset. Had this accident. My phone was in the car. The officer did call my company, but my phone was still in the truck. When he looked at me, the officer looked at Trooper, looked at me the second time. I said, "Okay, this is a bit much. I'm going to say something like either curse me out or yell at me. I can take it. I'm a trucker." He didn't do that. He looked away, and in the third time when he looked at me, his face was beet red, and his eyes were moist. And I'm saying to myself, he's about to cry. And he looked at me, and he said, "Driver," he said, "I've been a trooper for many years, and I've seen my share of accidents, but I have never, ever, until now, met anybody who could walk out a vehicle, a wreck like yours, twisted up, mangled, glass, metal, steel, everywhere." He said, "I've been looking at you. You have no visible bruises. You have your face, arms, hands, it's not cut up. Your clothes aren't torn. Your clothes are intact." And he says, "Driver, somebody loves you."
Yeah.
And I smiled at the truth, and I said, "Yes, he does." Church family, we're going to have our challenges. Okay. But all in all, Christ loves us. He needs us. He needs us to be his disciples. That's what he's counting on. I personally, I don't want to delay his coming. I'm tired of this place. I am truly tired. And I know other folks across the globe are tired.
Amen.
We need to stay firm, stay in touch, persevere, that the Lord do what he needs to do in our lives and through our lives. I'm grateful to be here. I'm truly grateful to be here. At this time, church, I'm going to close. But let's reflect on his love, his grace, his mercy. We're not promised tomorrow. Our members that are sick, let's call them, text them. If we can swing by and see them, let's do that. But let's, even those of us that are here now, let's not take each other for granted. Because once we get in our vehicles and get on 40 or Washington Street, get on the interstate, we don't know what's going to happen. Keep Christ first in everything.